we're back talking about the Montreal Canadiens, and it's funny that during this whole time I haven't seen the games against the Leafs and the Capitals, and I know
Mm.
I've obviously seen highlights, and I know who scored, who put up points. But my God, like, can you actually believe there's 2 games remaining in the season? Like,
God, it's incredible. It's insane.
I don't know.
It feels like it just started.
I don't know if you guys want to share your thoughts on this, but remember last year, our last episode, we said, "Wow, what a long season this was."
mm-hmm.
I'm trying to compare to see the same if we had the same feeling this year. I think this year was
Not. You
well,
found
there
it
was
long?
more a bit of both because it was entertaining this year. There was a lot of good things that happened. A lot
Yeah.
of good came out of this season, right? So
Yeah.
I
we
agree.
can't like last season was just fucking total shit show. This season we saw a lot of nice stuff, but I
Yeah.
still found it long. Maybe because we had a long winter. I don't know, but it was.
I
Just a
didn't
long
find it
season.
long actually. It's strange how like different perceptions by different people. Uh, to me, it didn't feel long one bit. I'm actually surprised it's already April to start with, and the fact that there's just 2 games left, dude, does not feel
I'm
like
gonna
it
say
is. But it's probably because, as Anthony said, we've seen some progression. Like even if they're still in the bottom of the the tier of the fucking conference or whatever,
well,
it doesn't seem as if it's hopeless like it did last season. So maybe that's why it's less long for me.
Okay, interesting.
look, I'd say it flew by for the first half, and then once we ended up losing the last of the interesting guys, to like we had so many guys that were able to watch. Slavkovsky still played 39 games. Got to realize that every single one of
Yeah,
the games there was something to watch, there was something to focus on. You had Caulfield who was putting up, he was on pace for high 40s, maybe even a
Mhm.
50-goal season. Very entertaining. You had Arbor Jacki, who was beating the shit out of guys and really making a name for himself. You had Caden Gooley, who was also
Incredible.
performing very well, who I think was playing top pairing minutes. In the first half of the season, where we had the privilege of seeing all those things, even though they were losing. But the second half of the season, even by the time Doc got injured
Yeah,
and he was out, I think it just became, I don't want to say painful to watch, but
Not
there was
necessarily
no
painful though.
entertainment factor.
Yes and no, because the second half of the season we got to see players that would have never made the NHL or seen any spotlights this season
Mm-hmm.
shine. You know, like Penard and
Yeah,
who else?
Belzil.
Belzil,
Bazil, guys
yes,
that we don't.
Masterton.
So
Elonen, yes, Elonen too.
Lonan, yeah.
no, and I'm sorry to say this out loud to people that might cringe by after me
Depth.
saying this, but Montalvo showing that he might be our fucking top goalie, maybe. Like no, but it's he laughed, but it's a possibility. You know,
and I totally agree. And I think for the first time since Carey Price, we have a goalie issue now, in a sense. And when I say by issue, I don't mean we have no goalie. You're right, Anthony. I think Montembeau could be that guy, but of
Goalie.
all the pieces of the puzzle that we're gonna get asshole, we're gonna get there. Of all the pieces of the puzzle that we finally added, I think the goaltending position still has a question mark. And this is and we're not used to this because we were blessed with Carey Price in net. So
generational player, right?
he is. Or at least
in
he
the
was.
goalie position. I mean,
But I don't think this season. I don't think the season was as long as last year because last year was just dreadful, was painful. But speaking of painful, it was just this. I think this season was more frustrating than anything because of injuries.
well, even last year.
Injuries. Yeah, but you're right. Even last year, it's like it's 2 seasons in a row, but just like it's injury after injury after injury after injury. Like Chris said, it's just and not only that, it's from the guys that are the building blocks of this team.
Yeah.
So the only look, not to vent about. Okay, so look, we all have different. There's different. There's different fans in this fan base, right? We have the delusional ones. You have the ones who are the true fans, and you have the ones in the middle, right? You know, all the psychopaths of being a Habs fan. You know, the ups and downs of being a Habs
the
fan.
spectrum.
This season, to me as a Habs fan, all positive. And
think
why I
so.
say that is
Yeah.
because we know we're going into a rebuild. We're going into the rebuild. I see fans. Today I was smoking a cigar outside, and one of my neighbors came out and is like, "Oh, the Habs, eh? No, it was another guy. He's like, it wasn't him. I don't want to talk about it. But like the Habs, eh? What a shitty team." I'm like, I looked at him. I'm like, first of all, you probably watched like 5 games in your entire life.
It's the Leaf fan, right? Who was yelling.
Someone in that area.
Oh my god!
I looked at him. I'm like,
that.
so he looks at me and he's like, "Oh, the Hubs." I'm like, to me, it was the best season. What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm like, a lot of good came out of this, and
Play with the
I
psyche.
don't think he understood, right? Because
No, he clearly didn't.
so again, a true Habs fan, people like us that watch and understand and want to see a bright future. This was actually a great season because
100%.
we're a lot of rebuilders like Arizona. Imagine being a fan of Arizona, right?
Dude,
They fucking shit for
always.
years and years and years. We're in a rebuild situation, and there's strong signs,
dude.
Where, sorry, Sam, I'm going to throw this at you, but it's not going to be a 9-year rebuild because after what we saw this,
I never said it was a 9-year rebuild. I said in 9 years we could be contending or winning the cup.
But I don't see it in 9 years because what we saw this year, there was a lot of good potential, right? Like, second half of the season, what we were talking about before, Chris, it wasn't that dreadful because we saw players that shined for 2 things. 1, they could be our bright future, or 2, good assets to get rid of for better assets in the future, good trade assets. And so, again, it could be anything. All I'm saying is that a lot of good came out of this season. A lot.
All good.
So I don't think this was a bad season. And as a true Habs fan who is in that rebuild mindset, this was you couldn't get anything better than this. From my opinion.
And how many times do you read from people that are not even Habs fans or analysts that usually don't like the Habs? All of them are saying with a common fucking statement that the Habs future is bright. That's I haven't heard that or read that in like my life of being a Habs fan. Everybody always shits on the Habs because the Habs never had, they were never in the position of drafting, well or whatever, or they had managerial issues, and this is bullshit. But within the last 2 years, you can really see that there's something happening. There's chemistry happening. There's physics that's coming together, and the kids that are coming up. It's like even our prospects are dominating in their respective leagues. They weren't high picks, but they're doing well. They're developing well. So maybe they saw something special in these people. Finally, with the right management staff, something's going to come together sooner than later.
Rockets not making playoffs, and now they're in.
But the Rockets not making the playoffs, it was because of the injuries, first of all, and then they're all playing in the Habs.
Yeah,
so that's the issue with the Rockets. But yeah, they're a strong team, man. If you see their chemistries and Dobes, I don't know if you want to talk about that now or you want to talk about later, Jacob Dobes. That goalie, dude. Okay, I was looking at 20 minutes of highlight videos during lunch, and it looked as if, I swear to God, and
during work, or
don't call me crazy during work. Don't call me crazy, but did you see how he moves and how he looks in the net?
He's very.
Who does that remind you of?
He's very good technical. Like he's got good technical abilities. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go as far as saying Carey Price. Like
it does, and I'm not the only one who says this. But I'm not saying he's going to be as good. He's not a general goalie, but he could have potential. What if he develops all of a sudden? He meets his right coach. He plays with Marty and builds his confidence to a certain extent where he flourishes. And there you go. And if we have a Montembeault and Dobes, Jesus Christ, 2 young goalies for the next 15 years, that's fucking amazing.
So what does that mean for Jake Allen, though?
Well, he's going to retire soon enough.
He's still got a few years left in him.
How old is he? He's 34?
30. Good question.
That's the number he wears.
I think it is a number.
Okay,
what should be his age?
Okay, question for you, Sam, Chris. Since Nazuk, Jake Allen, do you think he still has a bit more juice to win a cup again?
No,
only as a backup goalie.
He never had juice as his prime.
Okay, okay. Considering that we're not looking at contending in a year or 2 or 3 or whatever, right? And you have Dobes in the back, and you have a Montembeault who could be our starting.
Yeah.
Do you think Allen would be a better fit in a team that needs a good backup goalie in case for a playoff run, in case
Sure.
they're up one goal. So then
that,
get
that
rid of
was
him.
that
That's
was
a great
that was
question, though.
that was part of the there were rumors going around before the deadline that maybe a team might need him. It's just he's got 2-3 years left, so it depends what the team
I
could
think,
afford.
Sam,
I think for now, but I think eventually, yeah, maybe. I
I
don't
think
think
next year is a big year for Jake Allen. For
it's
the
gonna be a
Habs
big
and
year
Jake Allen.
for it's gonna be a big year for Montembeault too. It's just the thing is that like can both these goalies split duties, play 30, 40 games?
30, 40 games.
I don't think Allen could. I think Montembeault could, but I don't think Allen could.
No.
So maybe if Allen accepts that, yeah, I'll be the backup to Montembeault instead of both of them being fringe starters. I don't know, but
Allen,
yeah,
you
Anthony, I
noticed that
think
the second season or the second half of the season, Sammy, how it shows how Allen can't endure that much.
he doesn't. He
He's
never.
not playing as well as he
But
did in the first half.
but
And
that's why he
that's
was
his issue, even the few years, even with Price. And stuff.
that's the reason why he was never able to be a permanent number one goaltender on the team.
Yeah.
He's a great. He could be considered one of the best backup goalies in the league, but he's not a number one. I'm sorry to say, and I like the guy. I really do. There's times he makes these saves, and then there's times where it's like he can't stop a beach ball. That's a story of Jake Allen's career. We said this many times, but yes, I do think one day they're gonna trade him at a deadline to a team that just needs that backup goalie
Next year
to help them in case something happens to the goalie.
You have to do it now or next year. Not
next year, I think he's gonna have a
2
good
years
year.
later.
I think so. I think so. I think Edmonton's gonna be another one that goes in the
Mhm.
offseason, maybe.
Mhm.
Because Mike Matheson,
Offseason, yes.
Mike Matheson just showed that he's
Stop, dude.
we-
He's
we-
incredible.
we talk about Caden Gooley, but like Mike Matheson right now, it's his show on defense.
You know how many points he has for the amount of games he played?
He's amazing.
It's retarded. Like in a full season, he's like a 70-point defenseman. It's like that's fucking retarded.
And to think this guy played in the shadows of a guy like Chris Letang in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but what did Chris Letang say in the summer when the team told him that they would be going to the Canes? He says he just lost a good team. I mean, a good player,
teammate. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And
I'm glad he's a Montrealer too. Like, oh fuck, he really likes playing here. It shows.
It's it's personal to him.
Yeah, he really likes it. He's happy. His family's back.
Oh my god, like this, it means the
It's
world
really
to him to play for the Canadians.
Chris,
go, Anthony. Then I'll ask Chris.
Ask the question because it's off topic, and I know something you'll talk about later. But go, Chris.
Well, because I know Chris want to talk about Slavkovsky and Jack guys. They had their mini press conference.
Okay, so before we get there, question fast.
Mm-hmm.
What is the scenario for Florida to not make playoffs?
Or they have to lose tonight.
They gotta lose, and the Islanders gotta win.
Yeah.
So for the first time ever, I'm going for the Leafs, and they're winning 1-0 in the third period. Go, Chris.
First time ever.
Yeah, last time I rooted for the Leafs to win against Florida, they lost with a minute left. Those idiots.
Yeah,
well, they're winning right now. Chris, go.
Yeah, I know.
Well, look, some of you might have seen the interviews that they had today. Slavkovsky's back on the ice for the first time since his injury. I thought there were two very, very telling interviews that took place today. So starting with Slavkovsky, I think the thing that stood out to me the very most, still is humble, still making his little jokes, happy to see. But first and foremost, he said up in the press box, there's been a lot of effort and a lot of concentration on, let's say, how he could be playing the game, monitoring other players from other teams. And the name that he was hesitant to mention it, but he said,
don't say
one of the guys that they're asking me to model my game after is Matthew Tkachuk, just based off of my size and what we think. Yeah, he said there were about 5 players, but one of the players that was mentioned that they said we think you can fit this type of mold, they're giving him Matthew Tkachuk highlights to watch over and look over. Right. So that was a big time wow moment in that press conference. He's evidently talking about using his size a lot more, and he goes like, I have the size, I got some skill, I think I could score some goals, but he goes like, I really have to start putting everything together. So again, just love seeing the way that this kid is humble. And on Jack Eye's side, and then I'm going to do a comment that like ties into both of them. But on Jack Eye's side, they were saying, well, is this a first-time injury to your shoulder? Is this something that is reoccurring? No. So he was very comfortable saying, look, I've had maybe some wrist sprains and stuff like that. Obviously, fighter, normal. But as far as the shoulder goes, he said, no, it was just a fluke.
Yeah.
What ended up happening? He said, I should be back to normal. But he did mention exactly what we mentioned, picking your spots. He says, I have to do a better job picking my spots.
Yeah.
And talking in a similar light to what Slavkovsky was saying, a lot of video work being done with the players, where you're saying, I've had a lot of opportunities and chances to watch Matheson play and Edmondson play. And he goes, just the type of player I am. He says, I would just kind of charge at players coming down the ice like a bull, and maybe that was not the best thing. And he literally broke it down. They asked him a technical question, and the guy said, without getting too geeky about it or nerdy about it, can you explain maybe some of those technicalities? And he went on to say, just the way I place my stick on the ice, just the way the vets place their stick on the ice, you're forcing a player to take a certain trajectory that will lead to a favorable outcome. And he says, these are not things that I'm doing. And just to put both together, I'll end it on, especially Jack Eye, he said, Marty is doing something special. And he said, Roby, like Stefan Robida, he said, they're doing something special. I know they don't have too much experience as coaches, but they said what these guys are bringing to the table has not been seen, has not been heard. And I think he even alluded to the fact that, he's a young guy, but it seems as though that's for everybody. That's for guys who have been in the league for a long time, and they truly just a testament to the coaching staff. It's so great to hear that this was not a wasted opportunity. While these guys were off the ice, they were nitpicking at little points, and these guys had a great opportunity to do all sorts of development in that regard. So I know there was a lot to be said, but those interviews were very, very, very interesting points that came out of today, the Montreal Canadiens today.
Yep. And that's key too. And I think that's a sign of maturity. Not just as like a young person, but as a player too for the league. And this is why I think keeping a guy around, having a guy like Matheson to do that, and as much as I love Joel Edmondson, I think it's like he's kind of got to go to make room for these guys.
No.
But this is why I think having a guy like David Savard around for just one more season is important. And it's good to have a coach like Robida to show these kids what to do, like video and during practice, but you kind of need that experienced veteran leadership during the game. And this is where I think David Savard comes in. This is where I think he can provide that. And you saw it almost up until Caden Gooley got it badly injured. You saw how much he was a bit of a mentor towards Caden Gooley. Yeah. Having a guy like David Savard, I don't care what the fuck Joey says. I understand where Joey's coming from when it comes to David Savard, but David Savard this year was a rock.
He didn't have a bad year.
He didn't have a bad year at all. Like, if you manage your expectations with some of these players and know what their roles are, you won't be disappointed. This season, David Savard was not the same David Savard as last season.
No, crazy. I don't know if I should backtrack of what I said earlier, man. Like, here I'm saying, what a great season, bright future, but we ended the season by saying Montalban and Savard were solid. Wow. Never thought we would say those two things.
No, but
it's either we had a really bad season for them to shine or they're actually good.